Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. You like that? 3, 1, 2, 3. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, Vikings Vent Line rolls on every weekend on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and podcast feed. Vikings Vent Line is your show. If you're a Vikings fan and you're discovering this show for the first time, well, congrats. Welcome aboard. This is Vikings Vent Line, where we give Vikings fans a voice to talk about the upcoming season, talk about past games, talk about the draft during the regular season when football is happening. Mackie, Judd, and myself like to hop on here and bring on a ton of Vikings fans to talk about the game, and then we continue this show, at least I do, in the off-season edition. We're going to talk to my guys, John and Chase, here in just a little bit. But if you'd like to be on a future episode, hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. That's vikingsventline@gmail.com. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Whether you're a first-time guy, first-time man or woman who wants to come on the show, or you're a repeat guest, I'd love to hear from you. Hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. Purple Daily also sponsored by our friends at Quick Trip. Start your weekend at Quick Trip. Great gas station, great food, great options. Not just a gas station, so much more than that at Quick Trip. Go check out our friends at Quick Trip, and plus our friends at Nicolay Law. So our friends at Nicolay Law have hopped on board here at Purple Daily. So, if you're in an accident or you need an injury lawyer, go hit up our friends at Nicolay Law. If you're in the metro in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you've probably seen his billboards all over the place. Go check out our friends at Nicolay Law. All right, let's get our guys in here. Let's get John and Chase. John, you're in Chicago. Chase, where are you calling from? I know you've been on Vent Line before, but where are you at?
North Dakota. I'm not going to waste that down with the town. You guys probably never heard of it, but...
Okay. Unless it's Fargo, Grand Forks, Jamestown. I know Jamestown.
Yeah, that's the one right there.
Is it? Did I nail it? Yeah. I got Jamestown right?
Yeah, I suppose it is one of the major cities.
Okay. I feel pretty good about my North Dakota knowledge there then. That makes me feel pretty decent. That's about the extent of my North Dakota knowledge, though, so don't quiz me on certainly anything else. John, you're in Chicago. You got a Dante Culpepper jersey on, I believe they're correct?
That's right. Yeah, okay. With all the quarterback talk we've had over the past couple of weeks, thought that break this out for one of the last times we had a drafted quarterback play at an MVP level.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting a Dante jersey. I had one growing up as a kid. He was the first quarterback I gravitated towards, and I've been about every few months I go on eBay to see what used Dante Culpepper jersey can I get. And honestly, I need to pull the trigger. I don't know if that's clearly what you probably did, but I need a Dante jersey, I think, as well.
Yeah, this one was actually a hand-me-down, and the one I really want from that era that I've been looking for on eBay was probably a Fred Smoot jersey, just for something out of the blue, and in honor of one of the I'd say highlights of that era.
Nice, yeah, that would be a fun one. Little Love Boat jersey there for Fred Smoot. Could be a fun one. All right, fellas, let's get into here on Vikings Vent Line. So free agency's knocking on the door. I'm curious what players you'd like to see the Vikings go after in free agency. That could be internal, that could be re-signing guys, or that could be external, obviously, when you dip into the free agency pool. John, I'll start with you. What free agents are you looking for the Vikings to go after this week?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking on both sides of the ball. I guess starting on offense, it's really time for a new era at quarterback. We've already been robbed of $185 million. It does not make sense to bring Kirk back with all the holes that we already have. And, he's doing his dancing clown show and media tour, trying to drive up his price as much as possible. So no real love there. I mean, the two bridge options I'm really thinking of, I'd love it if we go draft a quarterback, but for bridge options, I'm thinking Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. With Jacoby, Mari Cooper and DPJ, they actually performed better with him back in 2022. He could actually, try and right the ship, be a mentor to the, whoever we draft. Gardner Minshew, he's probably more of an aggressive arm, but got us within a pass or got the Colts within a pass of the playoffs. And they both probably throw at least a few less hospital balls than backups we had last year. On the defensive side of the ball, it's obvious. We need to beef up the trenches, and it does not look like, Daniil's going to be coming back to us. So obvious pick would probably be Christian Wilkins. He can collapse the pocket with 10 sacks last year. He's got familiarity with Flores. Maybe be able to bring in his buddy Van Ginkel. It's a cheaper edge option, but if he's not available, maybe go after Chase Young or Bryce Huff, but it's kind of the brain drain we had on defense. We need to spend up on some young guys that can lead. take on a new era. So maybe a linebacker with Frankie Louvu from Carolina or Devin White as an off-ball linebacker. Both of them can play the blitz and run pretty well, and especially Devin White. He's been a captain on the defense for several years now. So those are kind of who I'm thinking of.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of good names there. Offense, defense. Obviously, I think they're going to probably prioritize the defense more. Maybe they're able to find an offensive lineman or a guard to kind of solidify the offense, but mostly going to be probably a lot of dollars going at the defensive side. Chase, how about you? Any of those names that I'm guessing maybe are on your target list, or are there any other names that maybe John didn't mention? What names are you looking for the Vikings to go after in free agency?
I would actually love, I was thinking Kevin Dotson, but then I was reading this morning that he got signed, and I was like, well, there goes that guy. I don't know if there's any other, because the O-line's not good at all. I mean, it's good. You got your two tackles. You got your Darrisaw and O'Neal, but we don't have a good center. We don't have a good guards. Like John was saying, we need to beef up those trenches. Just someone in the trenches, like Christian Wilkinson. I would love if they signed him, pair him up with our defensive coordinator who he coached down there in Miami. I'm blanking on the name now all of a sudden.
Brian Flores, yeah.
Yeah, I would love that pairing. I think that'd work out good. And I don't know if maybe we bring in a running back. I don't know if we can afford Saquon maybe. I'm all on board with Lane Kirko too. I loved Kurt. I love him as a person, but it's time we move on. I mean, he's spent way too much money, too much time of us, and yeah, it sucks that he finished his year with the Achilles tear, but that's NFL for you. So bridge guy, yeah, Gardner Minshew is my top guy. If he goes back to the Colts, maybe Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he plays kind of like Kirk Cousins. That wouldn't be a bad option either. I just don't want Russell Wilson is all. It's the only guy I really don't want. No disrespect to him, but I just don't want Russell Wilson at all.
Yeah, it seems like an unnecessary distraction, even though you can just pay him basically a vet minimum like deal and have a huge cap savings. But at the same time, do you really want to risk the aura and presence and just honestly bad football that he's brought the last few years over just having a cheap quarterback? I think there's probably better bridge options if they moved on from Kirk Cousins. Yeah. John, do you see them signing a running back? Is Saquon someone that, like, if they had leftover money, I don't think they'll prioritize number one running back, but can you see them adding a running back? Should they add a running back, or is that more of a draft thing for you?
Me personally, I think it's probably more of an area that we should go after in the draft. If there is leftover dollars, I mean, we're definitely flooded in the market right now with running backs, and not a lot of them are going to command a high cap hit. Maybe a guy that's kind of more versatile, like a DeAndre Swift. But again, that kind of depends on how much someone like him would cost. I would just basically say if we can get a cheap option, or, if we can pick up someone towards the end of free agency, great. Otherwise, I'm good with just targeting one like a Bucky Irving and later in the draft.
So what would you want to see them just do in the draft overall then, John? Are you looking at J.J. McCarthy? Are you looking at trading up? Is it the quarterback of the future bust for you when the Vikings are on the clock here in about a month and a half?
100% quarterback of the future or bust. I stuck my head in the Thor Kool-Aid, and I'm fully in on J.J. McCarthy. I'd love a guy like Jaden Daniels even more, but I don't think that's realistic. Unfortunately, it sounds like everyone else has been drinking the Kool-Aid too, and his draft stock's been skyrocketing, so we may need to make a trade happen. But I'm good with leaning in on a guy with JJ, where at least he's got the potential. And I mean, JJ to JJ is great marketing. Also in the second round, assuming we don't have to give one up to trade up, again, invest in the defense and especially defensive line. As a Mizzou grad, I've been pounding the table about Darius Robinson. We got to get him somehow, some way. If he falls out of the first round, the guy's massive at 6'5". He's got great technique with his hands and in the pass rush, and he can play all across the line. He actually spent most of his time over the B gap before switching to outside of the tackle. I mean, he's a Detroit native, and the Lions were always looking to beef that up. But you know what? If they were able to swindle us and make us drop back 20 spots a couple of years ago, maybe we can do the same. in this year's draft. But if not him, I also like TJ Tampa, the corner out of Iowa State, or Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle out of Michigan. That guy's athletic, strong. He can blow up double teams, and he's still kind of raw in the pass rush, but definitely the line and just defense overall is where we need to focus on.
Yeah, if one of the quarterbacks is either not on their radar to trade up to get, I probably see them trading down from 11. Like if they can orchestrate the trade before the draft, I think trading up and getting, whether that's Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, I'm going to assume Caleb Williams, Drake May are probably off the radar, but you never know. I've been seeing more and more mocks and projections that are saying Drake May is definitely more of a project than he is a immediate week 1 starter. And who knows, maybe the coaching staff, whoever drafts him, says, no, the kid can start week 1, but I found that really interesting. But if all those quarterbacks and the price of poker getting up is too much, I probably see them trading back. Chase, how about you, man? What do you want to see them do at the draft this year?
Ideally, I would love to. I actually saw it today on a mock draft. I can't remember who it was, but I would love if they traded up to like 5. Jump all the other quarterback needy teams that are like 6 to 12, because there's a bunch of them. Jump up 5 with the Chargers who don't need a quarterback and get JJ McCarthy. I mean, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid too. I have been ever since probably the national championship game. But if that price is too high, then I'm okay with maybe sticking at 11 and drafting a defensive guy, or drafting down a few slots if you think that one of your guys is going to be there later in like the 20s, then trade down, and then with your second pick, go out and get Michael Penix, or someone. I mean, I'm all for the quarterback of the future. I've seen enough of Kurt to go, okay, we need to move on. I've never really seen a franchise quarterback, as I've talked about before in Vent Line. I've never seen a franchise quarterback. The first one was probably Culpepper, and then we had a few years where we brought in veteran guys that didn't work out, and then we drafted Ponder. Let's just not talk about those years. So I would love it. I'm all for it. I love what the Bills GM said about drafting Josh Allen. He was like, if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to be here, and if it is, I'm going to get so much praise for it. And I'd look for Kwesi to do that. Why not?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you got to have the cojones to do it. I think I more look at them doing something before the draft than when the draft starts. And I the only way I maybe see them doing a draft day trade up is if then they weren't able to obviously get the deal done before the draft, and then one of those quarterbacks just starts to fall, and then they realize, oh, crap, we really got to do this. And maybe that means obviously paying more of a price because it's the day of. It's like booking, a day of airline ticket. You got to pay more on the day of than you did a month ago. But I am curious if they have, like you said, the stones to basically go up there and do it. And if they're right, they look like geniuses. And if the Vikings bomb, or if he looks like Bryce Young, I mean, they could very well blow out Kwesi. I think Kevin O'Connell is probably safe regardless.
Yeah.
But Kwesi feels like this is a kind of a make or break draft, or at least you need to show some sort of life. And they had brief tease of that last year with Jordan Addison. And I know Ivan Pace was undrafted, but Mekhi Blackman could be an okay. He showed signs of life in the last draft. He has to now take even a bigger step. You can't really have a similar just kind of meh or obviously a bust draft like he did the first time around. So we'll certainly see what happens. John, do you look at the Vikings as a playoff team in 2024? I know it's a little hard to project because the roster is so much in flux, but playoff teams drop in and drop out every single year in the NFL. Do you see the Vikings returning to the playoffs, or do you see them kind of taking some lumps and building things up a little bit before they get back there?
I mean, of course, we can be a playoff team. I mean, we've proven over the past, 5, 6, and even plus years that we're a 500 team. I'm no math major, but I did count it up. Since 2020, the 2020 season, we have had 49 games determined by one score. And so we have had so many opportunities to swing it one way or the other. And I totally agree on what you were saying about Kwesi. I think this really is going to be the year that, we show how thorough their plan was in a post-Kirk world. I could try and see, they go after the quarterback. But if that doesn't work out, how are they going to adjust in the draft? And especially with Kwesi, if like this draft doesn't go as planned, he's going to be kind of a lame sitting duck there. For all the people that want Kirk to come back because we're afraid of like going in the tank for a year, it's like, what are we really afraid of? We've been this 500 team. It hasn't really got us close to a Super Bowl. So along with the poor drafts. So I say, let's either make a shot with like one of these guys we've had in the past. I mean, we've had the Brad Johnsons, the T-Jacks, the Joe Webbs. We've always stayed stable. But even if we do have kind of a down year, I'm totally willing to take our lumps and then just be ready to go in 2025 with more cap space and just go from there. So we can make it, but if not, I'm not holding my breath.
No. The division's a little more crowded, right? I mean, the Lions are going to be pretty good. The Packers look like they might be good again. Bears are a wild card. They could pop back up and look like they're trying to finally figure all this stuff out with all the cap space and draft picks they have, but who really knows? And then can the Vikings survive? The NFC North kind of used to be one of the weaker divisions, and now it's turned into one of the harder divisions in football. So, yeah, a lot of things have to go right. There's a lot to project, but with half the leagues always dropping out from year to year in playoff teams in their field, can the Vikings be one of those teams that sneaks back in the playoffs? We'll see. Chase, how about you, man? Do you think the Vikings are back in the playoffs in 2024 if things go right?
If things go absolutely perfect, then yes, but this is reality check. Things don't go perfect. I mean, look at last year without life of Kirk. I mean, we were in pretty much every game without Kirk. I mean, we were almost in the playoffs, if Josh Dobbs doesn't play horrible or, we don't have those horrible games, or we get some calls go our way, I agree with John. I'm okay if we don't make the playoffs because I want this team, our ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, one day before we die. That's all of our mottos and everything. So if that means we suck for a couple of years, hey, we suck for a couple of years. I'm okay with it. As long as we don't go like 4-13, like we're the laughing stock of the league and getting blown out, and to where it's like I'm not even going to sit and watch the games, and like John said, we've been mediocre. I mean, I can't think of the last time the Vikings really had a top 10 draft pick. I mean, probably AP.
It's been a long time.
I don't know if he was a top 10 pick, but I mean, that was probably the last guy we took top 10. I mean, I'm not saying we're due for what's that?
Don't forget about Matt Khalil. Back was that 2012 at number 4. He was good for 1 year.
Yeah. But if we suck for a couple of years, we suck for a couple of years. It's part of the rebuilding. Not every team could do it like the Kansas City Chiefs can, or the Green Bay Packers, where they just 1 year and they're back in the run of things. I mean, everyone thought the Green Bay Packers were going to suck this year. I did. I really was like, Jordan Love ain't anything special, and then he goes and proves me wrong and they win a playoff game. And I'm like, oh, crap, here we go again.
Yeah,
so
I was with you too, man. I thought the Packers were finally at least going to take a half step back. I didn't think they were going to be awful, but I thought, all right, this is the year they finally figure out what it's like to not have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And well, damn it, they may have stumbled upon another one. Maybe he's not as good as Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, but God, can you just know what it's like for someone else to go through what we have had to go through the majority of our lifetime? We'll certainly see what can happen there. John, before we wrap up, any last take, any final take you want to get off your chest? Any shout outs you love to give here on Vikings Vent Line? Fire away.
Yeah, I want to give some shout outs. And if I could, I got one submission for an early, write that down.
Okay.
It's a parlay. So I think that could be a touchdown, but it's going to be as easy as a touchdown as you can get. Like if you got Josh Robinson and Chris Cook as our cornerbacks still. So can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So write this down. 1, Kirk will sign with the Atlanta Falcons. And in the first press conference or talking to the media, he is going to mention something along the lines of how he actually felt wanted with Atlanta or respected, or maybe how he's been disrespected by previous teams. And then finally, as part of that, in the first social media post or first week of it from the Falcons, they're going to show him off wearing his very own customized Falcons themed chain.
I love that. Yeah,
That's
I can see that.
That's
awesome.
my prediction. But just for shout outs really quick, I just want to shout out my former Minnesota Vikings chapters and cities that I've lived. So the Nashville Norsemen down in Nashville. We got the Cook County Vikings Club up here in Chicago. And then also just shout out to my boys that ride and die with me here every day in the Bears Den. So Sam Stecker, Dylan Sterry, Phil Parody, and all the guys back home.
Nice, man. Love that. Yeah, I can totally see Kirk having his own ice and chains in the ATL of all places. So that's 100% in play. Chase, how about you, man? Any last takes, any shout outs you want to give?
I see Kirk going to Atlanta, but I agree with that. But I think Vegas is a dark horse. I know you guys have talked about it on the show that they're the number 2 odds right now, but I think I think Vegas is 1A and Atlanta's 1B. It's going to be Atlanta because he's got ties down there. Yeah. So I think Atlanta would definitely be, where Kirk goes. As far as hot takes, I really don't have any. I guess kind of one. This is kind of an odd one. Caleb Williams, I think he'll have a year like Bryce Young will. I don't see the hype around Caleb Williams. I don't. I see the hype around Drake May and Jane Daniels, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy. I see the hype around those guys, but Caleb Williams just kind of, he feels like a tool. He does. I mean, so I think he's going to be the guy that everyone's talking about a year later and going, is he a bust, or does he need some time to develop? As far as shout outs, just shout out to my wife, for putting up with me every Sunday, watching the Vikings games, with me. And, I can get pretty loud, especially now that we have a house. I can actually get loud and without the neighbors getting upset. And to my parents too, for taking me after every church on Sunday, we come home and that'd be the first thing my dad would have on would be the Vikings game.
Yeah. So
shout out to my parents for letting me be a Viking fan. I guess, my dad's been around since the beginning. He's as old as the team is, so he's seen everything. So it's fun to listen to his stories. And then just shout out to my buddy. That's a sports fan that I talk to, Kenny. We're constantly talking about the Vikings and everything. He lives in South Dakota, though, so we don't get together too often, but we're always texting about the Vikings games and about their signing. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, great takes. Great stuff here on Vikings Vent Line. Appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to come on the show. And again, if anyone wants to come on a future episode, hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. Hit that subscribe button. Big, crazy week coming here at Purple Daily. So be sure to hit the subscribe button so you're in the know of everything that's happening with the Vikings as a crazy free agency is upon us. And hit that subscribe button, too, for daily Vikings entertainment. This is Vikings Vent Line.